Hi, I'm Matt Little. I'm the Director of Counselling and Education at Empowering Awareness.Asia, and I'm a proud sponsor of this podcast.
Um, hi, Mac.
Hi, Si. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your program today.
Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to interview you for my podcast, sir.
It's my privilege. Thank you.
So I've gone through a profile. I can see you're Chief Executive Officer of Bridge Institute. So I thought to tell about it to my audience and also a little bit about your previous experience, which made you to start this and what it is about. So can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Of course. Thank you so much. So my name is Mac McKenzie. I am the CEO of the Bridge Institute. We are a charity, and we specialize on bringing government, business, and civil society together to solving pressing challenges of our time. We believe that the world's biggest problems are deeply systemic, which means no one can solve on their own, no government, no philanthropist, no business, no foundation. We believe that we have to come together for the long haul. And this is what we're very, very passionate about. So when we look at the big challenges we face of climate change, gross inequality, loss of biodiversity, or peace and conflict, we believe that if we come together as government, business, and civil society, we have a much better chance of making a difference. So I've been doing this for about 11 years, and we started in South Asia, and now have got programs across the Middle East and Europe, as well as Asia, and hopefully soon to start in North America. And yeah, so that's what I do, and we're all very passionate about that. And then prior to that, I worked for an organization called Bridge, which is a consulting firm who helps organizations and leaders to develop and evolve to be the greatest force for good. And I worked there for 15 years. And it was that experience that helped me co-found the Bridge Institute.
You are from?
Excuse me?
You are from?
I'm originally I was born in Scotland, but I lived as a child in Germany and France and the USA, and then went to a boarding school in England, and then ended up with an English accent. So, but I spent more than half my life in different parts of the world. So see myself as a citizen of the world.
So why Bridge Institute and what made you to start this?
So I got fascinated by the really big issues of the world, and what I noticed that is in organizations, so many like really inspiring companies and different inspiring governments, they have all these different methodologies for helping them succeed. So they've got methodologies for problem solving. They invest in their leadership. They invest in their culture. They understand how to solve complex problems. And what I got curious about was if you were to take all of these methodologies that really amazing organizations apply, what would happen if you were to apply it to the really big issues of our time? And that started in 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 looking at issues such as combating child marriage, combating human trafficking, combating gender-based violence, and then also looking at how do you create more peace in the world. And then we then started expanding it to issues such as the refugee crisis in Europe, and also issues such as climate action. And we just think that we live in this really interesting time where the challenges are extremely complex but interconnected, and we need a methodology that holds the whole thing together. And that's what we're, with humility, trying to do.
So how do you actually work with this non-profit organization?
So how we work is we will sometimes be approached by a government. We will sometimes approached by a foundation, sometimes by a business, and sometimes by a philanthropist. And we're not for profit to ensure that our incentives are only to maximize our positive impact. and so it fills the right organization structure. And to give examples, so a government might say, we would like to promote climate action, and accelerate climate action. Can you help us do this? Or a foundation might have a climate challenge that they want. They realize is systemic, and they realize that it needs government, it needs business, it needs civil society to come together. So we will typically be partnering and approached and funded by one of those four types of institutions.
So what is your team? And from past 14 years, you are into this, and what all you learned, and what all the problems that you solved?
Okay, so we have a small team, a core team that has expertise in the methodology, expertise in communications and branding. We have expertise, obviously, in finance and risk, and the legal structures that we need to operate under. So we have a core team that brings all that expertise out. We have a fantastic facilitation team, and then that can teach the leadership and all the methodologies. And then we have impact teams. The heads of all of our projects, we call them missions, are called directors of mission, and they hold the whole thing together. Our wonderful directors of mission. So that's how we're structured. So our core has the right expertise in the methodologies, etc. And then the type of things that we've been taking on are, as I say, issues such as combating human trafficking and child marriage, gender-based violence, how to help refugees integrate and thrive in society. In the west of Asia, we're looking at how do we accelerate carbon dioxide removal. In the east of Asia, we're looking at how do we create change makers to be a force for good in their society. So we're anything that sits under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We're interested in any of those of any of those challenges. We think it's a wonderful map of the vision of the world that we want to create, and we want to just support governments, business, civil society in bringing that vision to life.
So working with the government, how is that?
How does the government? So obviously, governments have the remit to uplift their society, to keep their society safe, to uplift their economies. And what we think we're noticing is around the world, governments are realizing that they can't solve the problems on their own. So there are some governments that are already quite collaborative. So there are examples like Finland, and often say the Nordics, and Ireland are seen as more collaborative governments. And you see that when governments are collaborative, they deliver. They are a stronger force for good. They make more impact for society and are a stronger force for good in the world. So just as an example, there's a concept called the Rebecca framework that measures each country's contribution to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So how much are countries decarbonizing, reducing carbon footprint, promoting gender equality, reducing inequality. And so the countries that do the highest in those are the Nordics, in terms of, and also countries like Canada and Germany, etc. And they tend to have a more collaborative and a systemic approach to how they deliver their impact. And so we think that there is a realization of governments that to solve these problems, we need to bring the whole system together. So like a common problem that many governments are facing right now, for example, is the housing crisis. Many countries have got, if you're young, it's very difficult to get a home, and the levers that the governments have to solve this are not enough. And so what we would say, we're not working in housing yet, but we would say the only way to solve that is by bringing the construction firms, the banks, the communities, the people on the grassroots all together to go, how do we come together to solve this? Because it's a terrible situation for young people. and for society, this housing crisis that is impacting nearly every country in the world. But you just see every country when they look at how to try to solve it, they are not making the breakthroughs they need to do. So in summary, we think that the most collaborative nations in the world are the ones that are the greatest force for good. And we think there is really exciting proposition for governments to embrace the systemic collaborative approach to solving the challenges of our time.
So nature, it's a constant change in the nature. And what is the methodology that you use, you or your team, to bring the change in the society?
Thank you for the question. So we call the methodology the spiral breakthrough, and it builds on the work of amazing people over many generations. So it builds on the thinking of systems thinking. So the kind of the pioneer of systems thinking, Donella Meadows. It builds on design thinking. It builds on Otto Scharmer's theory U. It builds on the methodologies of strategy breakthrough and of change leadership. And so what we've done is taken all this great work that has been developed by many incredible people over many generations, over many decades, and we put it into one simple methodology we call the spiral breakthrough. And I'll briefly explain it. So the first thing that we do, we say, what are the points of leverage in the system that will change everything? Now, point of leverage might be a mindset change. It might be a financing change. It might be a regulatory change. It might be a new business idea. It can be anything really. But we look at the system and go, what levers, if we pulled, would change everything for the better? And we will typically identify somewhere between 6 to 10 levers that, if you pull, will change everything. Okay, so if you're, for example, combating human trafficking, we think a lever that will change everything is to stop all child marriage. So we think that the deceit of child marriage is often it deceives parents to giving their children away, and then the children tragically disappear, right? And so if all of the world had a mindset that no child should ever be married until they are at least 19 years old, financially independent, then we think it would be a huge breakthrough on stopping human trafficking. It's one example of a point of leverage. So the first thing we do is go, what are the points of leverage? And quickly, I'll just talk about the spiral metaphor. I should have maybe started there. The idea is it gets bigger and bigger, and it means that more and more people are enrolled in solving the problem. It starts with 10 people, then becomes 100, then becomes 1,000, and then hopefully then it becomes 1,000,000 people. So that's the idea of the spiral. But the other reason why it's the spiral is we want to uplift human beings to be the most conscious, purpose-driven leaders that they can be. And so in the work we do, we spend as much time trying to uplift leaders to be visionary, to be the best versions of themselves, to be inspirational to follow. And that's, again, what the metaphor of the spiral. So then I'll quickly explain the other 3 steps. So there's 4 steps. So the first one is, what are the points of leverage in the system, the systemic challenges? The second is we go, right, once we've found those points of leverage, who's got the power, the courage, and the care to pull each of those levers? So we'll spend maybe 3 to 6 months under each of the levers, recruiting the right people into the coalition. The third step is what we call the Breakthrough Summit, which is a 3 to 5 day breakthrough event, where the teams all come together to solve the problems and work out how to pull the points of leverage. We have a very specific methodology called the Breakthrough Hourglass that we facilitate people through. And then finally, the 4th stage we call Partnering for Impact, which is the most important stage, which is all about then going and making a difference in the world. And we do that via 2 things. One is what we call impact teams, where teams will go off and deliver the roadmap of change. Or the other type is what we call change maker programs, where we equip young people often, or just members of society, to be change makers, to go and make that change happen. So in one country, as an example, we're doing a program on health, and we are teaching and equipping young people to not only live a healthy life themselves, but also to go and be a force for good, creating healthy society, healthy food in their communities. So those are the two ways of creating the impact. And again, it's all called the spiral breakthrough, that starts with 10 people, then enrolls 100, then 1,000, and then hopefully 1,000,000 people. And the idea, it gets bigger and bigger, and it builds on the amazing work of great people over many decades of systems thinking, design thinking, strategy breakthrough, change leadership, and puts it all into one methodology that any government or business or philanthropist or foundation can pick up and go, right, I want to change this really complex problem in the world. This will help hold the whole thing together. Have I explained that sufficiently well?
Yeah, it is very clear. So, how do you think? How do you actually approach? What's the way? What is your way of approaching the problem that anything that comes to you? It can be from enterprise or from a government or from any organization. What is your approach? How do you start?
So the first thing we do is we use a concept called the kinefin to think about what type of problem it is, and so the kinefin model. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I believe it's originally a Welsh word, and it talks about how we have four types of problems in the world. We have simple problems, and if you have a simple problem, you just get a few people, smart people together and problem solve it. You can have a complicated problem, and so like if you have an airplane and it's not working well, then you get experts in to fix it. Then you get complex problems, where there are no experts that you can call in, and there are no known answers. And then the final one is a chaotic problem, which is like COVID would be a good example of a chaotic problem. We had no idea if this was going to last 30 years, 3 months. We had no idea. And so, that's a good example of a chaotic problem, the early days of 2020. And so, but we think the most of the really important problems, whether they're peace, whether they're climate, whether they're inequality or poverty, whether they're biodiversity, we think they're all complex problems, which means, so a complex problem means that it needs a system to come together for the long haul, and it requires an experimentation, a test and learn type approach, an innovative mindset, because it's not linear. There's not an expert you can go to. So this is why, when we look at, say, climate change, it's a really complex problem. There's no one you can phone up and say, hey, how can we solve this? And that's that's the stuff that we're really interested in, the complex, unsolved yet problems that really matter to people. But we think nearly everything, the stuff that keeps our mind and keeps us awake, cost of living, housing, climate, hope, agency, these are all issues we think are complex, and the stuff that we really want to get alongside governments, business, and civil society to solve.
So, society is a collection of different systems and different professionals and different industries. So, you are trying to bring change in this wide range of diversified uh,
Yes.
place or the area that you have chosen. Is it easy for you, like doing or coming with a solution for this?
Is it easy? It's, I would say, it is definitely not easy. It is an incredible privilege, to be doing what we're doing. But I would say why it's not easy is there are some things that make it easy and some things that make it really difficult. So I think the things that make it easy, I'll start off with, is that whenever we go to a community and say, we're going to work with you to solve this problem, the invitation to it. So if for example we go to a community to say we would like to stop child marriage in your community, or we want to we want to help uplift refugees in your community, the everyone wants to be part of it, right? So from a government's point of view, it's really attractive to them because it's helping solve it. You know, if they say I've got a refugee problem, all of a sudden we're saying we will bring businesses in to help solve this problem. We're going to bring non-government organizations in. We're going to bring so much resource to this problem. So governments love it, businesses love it, charities love it, NGOs love it, civil society love it. So it's really easy to sell and to say, hey, we're taking on this challenge. Do you want to be part of it? That's really easy. I think what's difficult is we're at a time in life when if you say go back, say 20 years, there was three swim lanes, if that's a good metaphor. Government does this, business does this, charities do this. And there was this kind of, so if you joined government, you're kind of clear about the swim lane you operated in. If you're in business, you're kind of clear about why you exist, etc. And what we're finding is that these swim lanes are not working anymore. And I'll give you a quick data point about to prove this point is if you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, they set 169 targets to deliver by 2030. Now we're on track to deliver only 17% of those, and 35% are either stagnating or now actually regressing and going backwards. So we've hit a point in life that, I summarize or generalize that life for human beings, decade over decade, over the last 40 years, has generally got better, right? There's been more peace. There's been more gender equality, more girls getting educated. There's been less poverty. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of people being lifted out of poverty, etc. And we've hit this point where these swim lanes aren't working anymore, and we need another model. And so why it's difficult is it's taking time for society to realize this. So some governments are kind of going, we need to do something differently, and then other governments are behind this. And again, some business CEOs and business leaders are going, we need to do something really differently, and then others are still in the old world. And I think that what I have found difficult is being in the middle of this transition. But every year we get more and more hope that there is a realization of the need to come together for the long haul.
So, what is the satisfactory problem that you have solved in all these years?
So I think, if I just give a couple of examples, so I'll give three examples of change that I feel really proud of. So one was in one country that had a refugee problem, and we created a solution for housing and for jobs that really uplifted those people, and it saved the government money. It empowered the refugees, and it empowered the local societies as well as empowering the businesses that were involved. So that's one example. I've worked in one community or the Bridge Institute has worked in a community that has helped make a huge difference to stopping child marriage. And again, I think that that child marriage is a gross violation of human rights. I think if a girl is married before she's financially independent, it makes her life very difficult. I mean, child marriage is also a problem for boys as well, but not on the same scale. And we have worked in communities that have made a commitment to zero tolerance to child marriage. We've also worked in conflict zones, and where a lot of people we've worked with have helped help a lot of people choose nonviolence. And so some of the projects we work are, I mean, they're all sensitive, but when you see that impact on the ground, it is the people on the ground who are making that impact. But to know that we've played a small part in it makes me feel really, really proud. And how I feel though is I look at the world problems we've got right now. I see that violence is increasing. I see that we're not on top of climate change, and we are. And so my position is when I wake up in the day, at the beginning of the day, is we're only starting, and we have so much more to do. So I spend more time worried that we're not doing enough than worried, proud of any difference that we've made. Yeah.
So you are working in other countries as well. So how different it is working apart from UK?
So most of our work has been in Asia, and it's been the starting point, and then only in recent years have we come to Europe. So I which I so it is different. There is definitely, again, if you look at government structures or collaborative structures, different countries are in different places. What I've found, though, is wherever I've gone, I've just found extraordinary human beings who want to make the world a better place, and wherever I've gone, and it's really interesting how when media, you'll see issues in the world, and media will paint a picture of what's going on. But wherever I've gone, I've only found really amazing human beings who are trying to be a force for good. So I think it's it's really important that to believe in the power of the human spirit, and it's a global phenomenon. There's obviously cultural changes, of course.
So how do governments or businesses or organizations approach you?
So how do so if I was to say uh, the always positively, I think that when I think about the challenges of the systemic challenges that we face, I think there are three things that are consistently the challenge when I go back to the swim lanes. So the first is that we live in quite a fragmented world. So even governments are quite fragmented amongst themselves. So you might work with a government, and every government, or most governments that I'm aware of, have got climate commitments. They're making commitments on their carbon emissions, etc. But you might work in a government and you'll find one ministry is working in one direction and on climate, and then another government ministry is working in another. So, and then they're not maybe very connected to the business community, and they're maybe not connected to civil society. And I think something like climate is a deeply systemic problem. You need to change mindsets, you need to change business behaviors, etc. You have to do lots and lots of things. And so the first thing that I found is we live in quite a fragmented world, and so there is a need to come together, and which comes to my third point, which I'll come to in a moment. The second one is what we often notice is organizations sometimes have too narrow definitions of success. So I'll use an example. So if a corporate has has one goal to maximize shareholder return or maximize profit, and they don't care about their carbon emissions, they don't care about their safety record. I'm embellishing to make a point because corporates don't do this, right? But if a corporate is to widen its definitions of success really wide, so they start thinking about, are we doing everything to address gender equality? Are we doing everything to uplift and give good jobs? Are we doing everything we can to promote peace in the world? Are we doing everything we can to promote justice? If you widen the goals of success to capture all the sustainable development goals, then that's very, very powerful. So I'm going to summarize those 3 points. Systemically, we're living in quite a fragmented world. There's still too many organizations that have narrow definitions of success. And third is there is a lack of coordination between government, business, and civil society on the whole. So our experience is we're stepping in going, we want to help with the fragmentation. We want to help with widening the definitions of what success is. And we want to help with coordinating government, business, and civil society. So you asked me, how do I find working with governments, business, civil society? It's hard work because it's fragmented, and it's hard work because still organizations have got too narrow goals of success, and third is there is that lack of coordination. But we are steadily moving all of those three things, and we're seeing a steady progress on those three things as we go. But I hope that makes sense. It's hard work, but it's improving.
So businesses, as you said, they are more interested in scaling up and making profit, and in the meanwhile, they do not concentrate on the natural things which are being destroyed and which is affecting humanity or other species in a negative way. So, how do you communicate? Like, what is your way of communication in letting them know that this is going wrong because of this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, I have lots of hope because I think it's really improving. And I feel that corporates are realizing that if they want to get really inspiring talent to join their organization, they have to be a force for good. Okay, so the younger generations, they care, and they care, everyone cares, but they care even more. And so, from an employee point of view, I think that being purpose driven and a force for good is very key for corporates. You're seeing steadily also behavior change of consumers. Every year, consumers care more about whether your organization stands for good, if it's protecting nature, etc. Okay, and it's so we think it's really improving year on year. But what do we do is that one of our parts of our methodologies is we call it disruptive immersions that disrupt and inspire, and we get business leaders to immerse in the world of the impact of their work. So example might be, we might get business leaders to work in the world of human trafficking and see the consequence of human trafficking at a personal level. And then all of a sudden, these leaders go back to their organizations and say, we've got to do much more around stopping human trafficking or helping reintegrate the survivors of human trafficking. Or like in food, for example, you might get food leaders to really understand the consequences of unhealthy food or processed food or something, or the cost of not protecting nature. So that's what we try to do, is we try to give powerful, disruptive, and inspiring immersion experiences so that it changes their mindset. And I think that, like, what if you're a business leader and you're listening to this, what you might immediately go and do is look back at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and if you're like building a new plant, or you're building a new facility, use it as a checklist to go, what am I doing around stopping hunger by this investment? What can I do to make everyone live a healthier life? What can I do to create gender equality? What can I do to create good and decent jobs? What can I do to reduce carbon footprint? What can I do to protect the oceans? What can I do to protect life on land? And when you look at all of that, you end up with a really exciting and nuanced vision about the difference you can make. My last point about it from a corporate point of view is Trust Capital is an organization that looks at organizations about, are they a force for good, are they purpose driven, and then looks at their shareholding, their profitability, and the business case is incredibly compelling. Purpose driven organizations make more money. It's not a silver bullet. You've got to do other things as well, of course, but they make more money, they are safer, they're doing more to reduce their emissions, and they're doing more to uplift society. So the business case for being purpose driven and will mean you will make more money as well. So it's a really exciting time to be a force for good as a business leader. So I hope that answers your question.
Sure. At last, what is your message to the global leaders or business owners or or government officials for watching and listening to you right now from anywhere in this planet?
So my big message is and belief is we cannot solve these problems on our own. Governments alone, if you look at the big issues that you're facing, housing, cost of living, poverty, climate, loss of biodiversity, if you try to fix it within your four walls, you won't make the greatest impact you can. Again, it's the same message for business leaders, for foundations, and for philanthropists. And we need to come together. We need to transcend boundaries, and we need to come together for the long haul to make the greatest difference that we can. That is my big message. And if we do that, I have great hope we will leave the world in a better place for future generations.
At last, what's your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
I have indeed. My observation is you are an extraordinary listener and extraordinarily curious, and you are in your own way. You are connecting the world. So I wish you more power, and feel very privileged that you've given me time today to speak with you. So thank you so much. You're based in India, if I'm correct. Yes.
Correct.
And the
Yeah.
heart, the origins of the Bridge Institute started in India, of which we are profoundly grateful. We were and continue to be received with the most great pioneering spirit. So many society leaders who are living and dedicating their lives to uplift society. And I feel incredibly proud that our origins started in India all those years ago. So thank you so much for giving me the privilege to meet you.
So I interviewed all business leaders from all different companies from all around the world, the global leaders and also different business owners. So I did masters in software engineering and also bachelor's in computer science and engineering. My background is completely technology. I work as a cloud DevOps engineer for a London company remotely from India. So that's my full-time role. Apart from that, I'm interviewing experts like you who are working on different things, different, who are solving different problems, for working in societal things, and for working on businesses, and for working for the governments, and who are into different countries.
Mhm.
So, how this diversified experience is going to be helpful for me communicating and having conversations about different topics and different domains, how this is going to contribute to my future.
So I think the space that you operate in is obviously is about progressing the most advanced technology. And I think that what is the work and the expertise that you're in now plays a role in everything. And when we look at, say, the spiral breakthrough, there is technology is needed for every single stage of the process. And so we are very excited to build partnerships with people like you, with organizations who are progressing technology, because we think that there is so much power in what is now being possible to solving climate, to solving loss of biodiversity, to solving poverty. We also think that if we're not careful, we can create even bigger problems. And so I think that enrolling all people involved in technology right now in this conversation is absolutely crucial, because if we don't, I think the risks are tremendous. Yeah.
So, one last question: what's your observation of about artificial intelligence?
So I was listening to someone speak about it this week, and I can't recall his name, but he said the potential benefits of the world are infinite, and the potential costs to the world are 10 times infinite. I know that's mathematically an illogical concept, but it captures for me how I feel about it. That when I look at what AI can do in all of the things that we're looking, like carbon dioxide removal, which is a really important part of climate action. I think the benefits of it are so incredible, but I think the externalities, the cost to society, if we don't do this in a way that's really thinking about all the parts of the UN SDGs, we risk creating, large-scale unemployment for a period of time. We risk creating further inequality, etc. So I think that the people who are working this, they need to have really wide definitions of success. If they have a definition of success of just profitability and global leadership, I think it's extremely dangerous. And I think that when we've had innovations in the world over the centuries, when the innovation has been held to be a force for good, it's been a force for good. When it's purely been about profitability, then it has caused a lot of damage. And I think that we're at this moment in time. So I think we all need to be part of that conversation, and every single one of us needs to be saying, how do I be a force for good as I progress this, and make sure that we take all of society with us.
Can you share your online presence to my listeners?
Of course. I would be privileged if you did so. Thank you.
Yeah, can you spell it? Your website or?
So the website is called Bridge. So bridge-institute.org, and we have our email addresses and contact details there.
So thank you very much,
LinkedIn's
Mark,
all
again.
there.
I'll share that in my website as well. People find this conversation anywhere on the internet, and in my personal website, can able to see about Bridge Institute and the work that you are doing and the contribution that you are doing to the world.
Thank you. It's once again a privilege to be on with you, and wishing everyone all the best today. Thank you.
Take care, sir. Bye.